for joining us, Danny. Please first just introduce yourself to us.
So much for having me. My name is Danielle, or I go by Dani Bicknell. I am a social impact advisor, and I'm also a program manager for an experimental education program where we support entrepreneurs through informal education to try and build 21st century inclusive economies. And I am located in the Bay Area in California, Oakland, California to be exact.
That's great. So you attended the first FWE conference in Paris last year. Tell us about your impression of FWE. What were some of your takeaways from the forum?
FWE was definitely a transformative experience for me in many ways. I've been a product of learning and traveling and going to other countries and learning so much from them. And I think that cross-cultural education and sharing is such a valuable asset for us to have in the 21st century. So at FWE, I really saw that come to light. I saw leaders from China, from Europe, from the Americas, from Africa come together and all share their vision for how we can build a more inclusive education, an education that works for the future, that works for, forgotten population, that brings people together to use their diverse expertise to create not only better educational institutions, but programs that work for people as well.
So I see from your resume that you have both worked in the private sector and the public sector on the theme of education. So how was that different? How was the experiences different?
Oh, wow. That is such a good question. So yeah, I've had the privilege of working both in the private sector, the nonprofit sector, and in the public sector. And I would say off the top of my head, things in the private sector tend to go a lot faster. So if you want to get a project done, if you want to create a partnership, if you want to collaborate with other private sector partners, I was really privileged to see how fast that can actually happen and really see how people that might not have all of their resources in front of them find really genius ways to kind of hack the solutions they want to create and try and create opportunities for collaboration and partnership. And then when I started working in the public sector for governments and educational institutions, I found that there is also an opportunity to take pause and to take a little bit of time to really make sure you understand the subject matter. So now when I advise startups and educational institutions, I usually promote that they do the opposite thing. Right. So I tell the private sector, you know what, let's take a moment, let's pause, let's make sure that we are integrating like research and educational principles into our work so that we're growing sustainably and we don't have to move that fast. And then I also will give different advice to public institutions and academic institutions and say, hey, we might not have all of the research finished. We might not have all the resources at hand, but let's try and push ourselves to move a little bit faster so that we can actually keep up with the pace of the private sector.
Due to COVID-19, a lot of students are learning online now. So what are some of the common problems that students in the US are facing in online learning?
That's a really great question, and I'm so glad that you're highlighting that. I would say firsthand from the people that I work with, access to technology is not as evenly dispersed as we believe. And so if you can believe it, there are actually spots in the United States that don't have adequate access to Wi-Fi and to internet. And that has created a huge disadvantage for a lot of students. In addition, when my husband, for instance, is an economics professor and he uses a computer software program to teach his classes, which requires a lot of memory and a lot of processing power. And so what we found with his students is not all of them have access to the same type of computer that can actually process the software program that he needs to do statistical analysis. And the schools they haven't been able to provide their students with these laptops or with these technological products. And so students are kind of left at their own devices. And I've seen some really inspiring stories of students kind of hacking together what they have in order to try and make sure that they can access an online education. But I think what COVID-19 has really shown me and really shown as an opportunity is if we do not invest in public education, if we do not invest in the next generation of learners, and by incorporating technology into that from the get-go, we are going to be at a continual deficit. We will continue to suffer, and our future generations will suffer, because not only will they not have the equipment to succeed, but that equipment is directly tied to them being able to access those resources.